Welcome to the Port City Plate Podcast, presented by Bienville Bites Food Tour. The Port City Plate Podcast is serving up the food, history, and people of Mobile, Alabama for people who love the Port City. I'm your host, Chris Andrews, and on today's podcast episode, I'm happy to welcome my friend Meredith Simmerman. Meredith is the founder and owner of Reney's Honey Butter. Meredith has created, I think, one of the best locally made products in the Mobile area with Reney's Honey Butter. She's created over 60 different flavors of honey butter since she opened in 2017, and her products have become so popular that she started a brick and mortar location in West Mobile called The Cottage, which is out there off Cottage Hill and McFarland, and we'll talk about that as we go on the podcast today. But you can go out there and order not only her fantastic honey butter, but she's got some awesome breakfast and lunch that you definitely want to go get. And Meredith is one of the most creative innovators, I think, in our food scene here in Mobile. And so I'm happy to welcome you to the Port City Plate Podcast.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here.
All right, good. Before we get started, though, I have to ask you, who is Reney?
Reney is me. So my first name is Meredith, and my middle name is Irene.
Okay.
So Reney comes from that.
Okay, so it's a nickname growing up?
Nickname by my sister.
Okay, I got you.
Yes. And then now she's got two girls and a boy, and they call me Eenie or EE. But to the world, I'm Meredith.
I like that. That's good. I asked the same question to Bob's downtown restaurant, Tony Sawyer, that owns Bob's, because the owner is Tony, and I was like, who the heck is Bob? So anyway, I was curious about that. Well, how did tell us the story of how Reney's Honey Butter came to be?
Yeah, so it was Easter in 2017, and I had just gone out after church picking blackberries that day, and I came home after a couple hours of picking with so many blackberries, and I thought, what in the world am I going to do with these? There's only so much cobbler or so many muffins that you can make. So I just had this creative spurt that day and decided to make blackberry anything. One of the things I made was blackberry honey butter. And because I had so many blackberries, I was just giving out all the things that I made to friends and family. And I got so much feedback saying, Meredith, this butter is so good, you should sell it. And I thought to myself, no, that is not the plan. Literally, I was just doing it for fun. But I got so many comments on that. So I thought, okay, I'm going to the store. I'll buy some mason jars and invite people over for a tasting party and sell them. So I made a Facebook event, invited people over. Nobody came. My parents, they disagree. They say, Meredith, we were there. I'm like, you don't count. But nobody else came. So that night, my sister made a post on Facebook saying, Meredith has some jars of honey butter for sale if anybody's interested. Well, within 24 hours, I'd sold $1,000 worth of butter.
Man.
Yeah, crazy. And then a local store, it was called Old Shell Market at the time, saw that post, sent a message saying, we want to put this butter in our store. I was like, what is happening right now? So I just went with the flow, and here we are almost 6 years later and over 60 flavors of butter later.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, not everybody not everybody goes blackberry picking, first of all, but not everybody especially comes home and makes honey butter after they go pick blackberry. So did you grow up cooking? Where did your love for cooking come from?
Well, I grew up with cooking and my parents making food, but it actually was not until early college when Rachel Ray was the thing.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody was loving her. I got her cookware for Christmas, and I actually went to culinary school because of Rachel Ray. Shout out Rachel Ray. So that really developed my love of cooking, was watching her and then growing into that and then actually working in the food industry when I was in college. And so I like to be creative.
Yeah.
My mom was a kindergarten teacher, and she taught her students every year how to make butter. So I just would do that every single year. So I guess it just all melded together.
That's cool. All right, so how did you go from, you sold $1,000 worth of honey butter. I think the first time that we ever met, it was at like a pop-up shop at the Pillars.
Okay, yeah.
And so I know you started doing things like that. Like what made you decide to kind of get into that
Well, okay, so
vendors and things like that.
Right. We were in Old Shell Market for about 2 weeks, selling out every day with our butter. And I got a phone call from the health department. And this is also new to me because at the time I was a practicing counselor. So I wasn't aware of like all the back end stuff of selling food outside of a restaurant. So anyways, I get this phone call from the health department and they said, we're throwing out all this butter that we have at Old Shell Market. You cannot sell anything unless you're approved by us. So at that moment, I had a decision to make if I wanted to just let it go or do all the processes necessary to have a food business. So I prayed about it and my brother actually said, Meredith, you'll never know unless you try. Like what if something amazing could happen from this? Just do it. Like, okay, Lathan, that's my brother. So here we go. So that's when I decided to just go all in. And then at the time I was in a commissary kitchen, so people just couldn't come and shop there. And that's where I built my customer base, was doing markets and vendor events and shows and things like that.
Yep. I remember those, like I said, some of those at the Pillars that I think we were at the same time. Well, how did you go from those vendors and a lot of those shops and pop-up shops to brick and mortar?
So back to being a counselor, I had been with an organization for a while and I thought I wanted to do my own private practice. And the butter was still a side thing at the time, so I was making it and selling it, but it wasn't the main thing. And I kept passing this building on my way to and from places. It was a little yellow building that kind of looked like a cottage. I thought it was adorable. It had been vacant for a long time. And I started praying about it, thinking it would be awesome just to have my own place to do counseling and to make butter. So that was still a side thing. And one day I just called about it and they said it's open, you can rent it. And I decided to go for it. And when I was preparing the space for counseling, I mean, over 24 people would come knock on the door. We're not even open yet, or not anything, you guys. They would knock on the door and say, "What are you going to serve for food here? What's going to be happening food-wise here?" And I thought, nothing. So it just really was customer-led and customer-driven. And so I started doing breakfast there and making the butter, but mainly it was still counseling.
Yeah.
So that's how it started, and that's why it's called The Cottage instead of Reney's Honey Butter, because it was counseling at the cottage.
Okay, gotcha. That makes sense then.
Yes.
And so you started. So what other things in addition to the honey butter can you find at the cottage?
So we do breakfast. We have biscuits, bagels, muffins, different things that go with butter, because everything we do has to be revolving around the butter.
Yes.
And then we do lunch now. We've started doing lunch for about a year now. We do loaded baked potatoes and paninis, which is a hot pressed sandwich, but still revolving around the butter.
Yep.
And we actually partner with Meat Boss for our meats for lunch, which is really cool.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah. I saw where, some of the biscuits that you have, the Cheesy Conecuh,
Yes.
the Cheesy Bacon Ranch. So I can't wait. And you've got some goodie bag in here
Yes.
of biscuits, and I cannot wait. I'm definitely going to be
We've
trying
just
those.
been doing plain biscuits for a while, and I have a new kitchen manager, Tiffany. Shout out to my 2 awesome employees, Lisa and Tiffany. And she thought, well, why don't we use the butter to make these biscuits? And I'm like, go for it. Go for it, girlfriend. So she started making them, Cheesy Bacon Ranch, and they would sell out. Cheesy Conecuh, that's brand new today. Garlic Parm, they're so good. And nobody else does biscuits like that.
No, I can't. I've never even heard of anything like that.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, if you just scroll down your Facebook feed or your Instagram feed, even just a little bit, I mean, you're going to start drooling at some of, like I said, the biscuits, the paninis.
That's my plan.
And, of course, the cinnamon rolls on Friday.
Yes.
Tell us about the cinnamon rolls on Friday.
So we call it Cinnamon Roll Friday, and we partner with another local business because we are all about supporting local too, because Meat Boss is locally owned, and a locally owned coffee shop on Dolphin Street is called Rooted and Grounded, and they make those cinnamon rolls and bring it to us fresh on Friday mornings. So, if someone is already doing something excellently, I am not about to copy it or do the same thing. So I want to support you in what you're doing well. And so that's why we use them on Fridays only. But because it's Fridays only, it's kind of like the McDonald's McRib. When you can only get it for a certain amount of time, people are all about it.
100%. And those cinnamon rolls are amazing.
They are so good.
They are amazing.
Yes.
If you haven't had one, you've got to get out to the cottage on Fridays for sure. And get those cinnamon rolls.
Yes.
That's good stuff. And so you also, in addition to the cottage and your honey butter, you got a food truck, right?
We do. Okay, we have a food truck.
How did you get into the food truck business?
That was also not a plan either. My whole business has really just been like people led or God led, and I just go with the flow. But
I get that.
Yes. So we used to host something called Food Truck Fridays at our store. We invited different food trucks to come serve lunch. This is before we were doing lunch. And one of those food trucks was called Kyle's Kitchen. And we just loved the owners. We love people, but loved getting to know her. Well, she decided to move on, do something else. And she said she was praying about what to do with her food truck. And my name just kept popping in her head. So she called and she's like, I'm selling my food truck. Do you want it? I'll give it to you for this crazy price. I'm thinking, not really, but let me pray about it. So I did, and everything actually lined up perfectly, and she gave me the food truck and everything in it. And I'm like, okay, another adventure, learning how to pull a trailer and all of the fun stuff. And it really has been such an adventure. Let me tell you real quick, the very first time we took it out, half of the electricity in the truck stopped working. We were in Tanner Williams at Tanner Williams Elementary and had no internet. So I had like manually entering all the credit cards. The coffee pot broke. I'm like, okay, let's get everything done wrong that we can today and then move on. So it's an adventure as well.
That's hilarious. What items are you selling out of the food truck?
So we were just doing breakfast, and we don't bring our whole breakfast menu on the truck. It is a lot to take everything on and off the truck. And so we were just doing breakfast, but then we decided to do our potatoes on the truck. So we offer both of those options. You can either get the breakfast menu or the spud menu. Okay,
gotcha. And where can you find the food truck?
Everywhere. Every week is different.
Okay.
So we only take it out on Tuesdays, so it's called Food Truck Tuesday, and we get invited different places. So if you want us, you just have to shoot us a message. We're actually booked until the end of May.
Awesome. At a lot of schools and stuff, though? Primarily?
Mainly schools and hospitals.
Okay.
Children's and Women's and University Hospital love us. They want us to come every week. And we rock it there, and we love the nurses and the staff there. But there's so many different places that we go.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you mentioned the spud.
Yes.
So tell us about, you have your potatoes. Tell us about those.
Yeah, so the potatoes are awesome. And this is also another thing that not too many people in Mobile do. Loaded potatoes.
Right.
I mean, maybe you could go to McAllister's, but we're way better than that. And so we do them in the store. You can get them. We make them for you in all these different styles. But so we have something called a spud bar, where we'll bring the potatoes, all the butters, the toppings to you, and you set it up kind of like a buffet. And people will pick up their potato. They add their butter, cheese, sour cream, bacon, whatever else you want, meat. Along the line. So we do catering. We've done catering like that for schools, for businesses, for meetings, luncheons. So that's a really fun way to do something different for lunch.
And it's meat from the Meat Boss, right?
The meat's from Meat Boss.
All right,
still.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, that's a great idea.
That's
a great idea.
Something other than sandwiches from a sandwich shop around here. You know, who doesn't love a baked potato?
Exactly right. Yeah, you're right. Can't think of a lot of places. I did have the previous episode before this one. was with the guys at Market by the Bay over in Daphne.
Okay.
And they're doing a loaded seafood potato, and it's fantastic. We talked about that on that one, but you're right. I can't think of anything else in town that does anything like that.
And then our butters are really what sets
That's what
the
separates
potato
it.
apart.
Yeah, that's the game changer.
It is. It really is.
All right, and we got a lot of moms that listen, a lot of parents that listen. So I know you're always doing stuff when it comes to kids' birthday parties, always seeing stuff like that. So tell us about that.
So that is another God thing, God story. So last year in the summer, usually summers are kind of slow, and we were just brainstorming, like, what can we do to get some people in here? And I thought, well, let's have a breakfast with a princess. So I reached out to another local business called Once Upon a Time Parties and hired Belle to come and have breakfast with the littles. I posted it on Facebook, sold out in 4 minutes.
That's crazy.
So we posted it again, under 10 minutes, sold out. I'm like, okay. So throughout the rest of last year, we did several parties that we host for kids. Breakfast with Santa. We did Encanto. That's another Disney themed breakfast. We did a pirate breakfast. So those were just, flying off the shelf.
That's
really.
awesome. So it's boys and girls parties.
And girls,
You mentioned
yes.
pirates.
Yes.
And I'm familiar with all the movies you're talking about because I've got little kids at home. So.
Right. So I decided to do something this year called the Reney's Kids Club. And we are going to host events every single month for kiddos. So it's not like your little Johnny's birthday party, but it's our event that we put on that you can purchase a ticket to. And so in January, we had breakfast with Elsa, which was so fun. In February, next weekend, we have a royalty party with Alice in Wonderland. We're going to have a Toy Story party this year, more princess ones. We just have lots of fun things planned, but you can check out all of that on our website.
That's awesome. And that's all out there at the cottage.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And you can come anywhere on site with your catering and the spud bars and things like that?
We can. Yeah, we can. We can take our spud bar anywhere. Now,
okay.
The food truck we're not taking anywhere. Yeah. I tell people this: I cannot back up. There's no backing up. If that's required, it's not happening. All I can do is go forward or turn, maybe.
So wide open parking lot.
Yes.
Is perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
In addition to a lot of the food items that we talked about, you also have a lot of items in your store that are gift items too, right? Is it a lot of locally owned gift products?
Locally owned, small business owned.
Okay.
And we call it our gourmet food boutique. And so we like to, just part of who we are, support our community and support other small businesses who are working to make their dreams come true. And so we have that little area in our store, and it's not going to be things that you're going to find at Walmart or Target.
Yeah, I know that one time I came out and I saw I think it was like a coffee or something that I had never seen before.
Coffee,
yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, and I was like, I got to get this. There's no way I can.
Maybe you got the birthday cake coffee one time, too.
It was one of those. Yeah, that's what it was. It was the birthday cake.
Yeah. Yep. So we like to carry unique things, and in addition to that, we also do gift sets that we deliver all over town. So, like yesterday. Was it yesterday that was Valentine's Day?
Yes, that was yesterday.
It was.
Yes.
So, we did a little gift set that we delivered all over Mobile County that people purchased. And so, we like to do things like that.
Yep. And you do a good job. And the end of the school year is coming up soon. So, I know you always roll out some awesome teacher gifts.
Oh, yeah. Teacher gifts. May. We do during Teacher Appreciation.
Yep.
Which is also the first week of May. At least in Mobile it is. And then we do end of the year teacher gifts. And we deliver. So for parents who are, what do you do with all your time? Maybe 1 to 3 to 5 kids. Let us help you make life better. Like, make it easier, and we'll package it. It's a cute thing. Who doesn't love food anyway?
Exactly right. There's no excuse.
No, and how many mugs do these teachers have?
That's
they
right.
have so many. Give them something to snack on.
That's right.
So, and we do those. We love those, and those are on our website too whenever we post them.
Okay, sounds good. I did want to ask you about, so you made a Facebook post, a couple of weeks ago, and it was a Facebook post that nobody came in for lunch that day. And I know your post, it kind of went viral a little bit. But just talk about, it's hard running a business, and a small business. And you mentioned you got some employees that are helping you out, and I mean, it can be really, really hard. So talk about some of the stresses of running a business and how you kind of had to overcome those.
Yes. Well, I know I say this all the time, but every day really is an adventure, and you do all that you know to do. You post, you share, you email, you put signs outside, you do all the things, and then you just really have to wait to see if people come. And that day we had like nobody coming, which is real unusual. Just for not to have any person, that's just real crazy. So I was being down and sad about it for a little bit, and that there's all the fluctuations of business ownership.
Absolutely, yeah.
There's like, everybody's in, this is the best day ever, and the next day it's nobody, and you're like, why am I doing this? So that day had been one of those days, but I decided not to stay in my disappointment. It's so easy to just stay. But I decided not to. So the post was mainly preaching to myself. Just a reminder that not every day is going to be awesome, but to have hope and to believe that good things are coming. There are good things in store for our future. So I was really just posting to build myself up in that moment. And over 500 shares that I know of, and thousands of comments on the post. And it really just blew me away just from that alone. But then the very next day for lunch, I was like, okay, now we're lines out the door. What is happening right now? We were not prepared for that response. But one of my employees, Lisa, she's a huge baseball fan. And she always says, Meredith, you can't bat 1,000 every day. Which I am not a baseball fan, but I know that means not every day is going to be, successful and amazing.
Yep. And on that, I mean, a great baseball player hits 300 in their lifetime if they're lucky. A great baseball player. So that's 3 out of 10, right? And so that's a great baseball player. And,
right.
And
so
you kind of have
standard, you got to remind yourself.
Right.
It's okay.
Yep. That's awesome. And I know I read a lot of the comments as well, and I know a lot of people were talking about, they were gonna come in and support you, and so happy that a lot of people did do that.
They did. And a lot of the comments were like, we didn't know you were there, we didn't know you existed. And a lot of it really does, Chris, go back to how I originally named the building, the cottage. Not Reney's Honey Butter.
Right.
Like, what is that? Which was my intention when I started it, because counseling at the cottage. Isn't that cute?
Yep.
But the butter just took over, and I knew that we weren't going to be in this building for years and years to come, just because of what all's happening around there. So I didn't want to spend the thousands of dollars on a new sign for the building when I knew that we were just going to go somewhere else eventually. But since then we have put out some signs that say breakfast and lunch on the building so people know. But we've had so much community support since that post. It's just blown me away.
That's awesome. And you're mentioning the Publix that's opening right across the street.
Yes.
So it's getting busy out there, right? A lot of people, more traffic. Have you seen more traffic?
There's a lot more traffic. They're about to expand the road it's currently 2 lanes. I think they're going to make it 3, possibly 4. So it is growing so much out there.
Yeah. Well, I really admire you, and I really admire your entrepreneurship skills that you have. You're so creative, and you've always got awesome ideas, and you know who your target audience is, and you really nail what they want. So you do a good job with that.
Thank you.
So what do you see? I know you well enough to know that you're always going to be innovating and always going to be doing something. What do you think you'll be doing 5 years, 10 years from now? What's your goals and plans?
Well, one thing any of us learn in life is that our plans never
Oh, of course.
end
This
up.
is going to be silly when you listen to it 5
Yeah,
years
I'm
later.
like, what?
Yeah, it'll be nothing that you think.
Yeah.
But where do you hope that it goes?
Well, I'd love for us to get a new building, and I would love a drive-through one day, and I would love to have another location or two. And there is something that I have created inside, and I also have a website for, but it's called the Butter Babes. One of the things that we say at Reney's all the time is that it's more than just butter. It's about the people. It's about connection, community, and celebrating. And so the Butter Babes is something that I would like to see grow. It's where we invest in women and just help call out their identity and help them live. This is so cheesy, but help them live a butter life.
Not cheesy. No,
Yeah,
I love it. I love it.
Because
That's
I feel
awesome.
like that's a combination of me with my counseling, my love for people, and then the food. I feel like it's just everything meshing and coming together in the Butter Babes.
Yep.
So I'd like to see that grow.
Yeah, food is definitely, it's a uniter, and we talk a lot
Yes.
about that on our tour, and especially with our tour guides. We talk about how, there's a bond that's created when people dine together and eat together.
Absolutely.
So, no, you're tapping right into that, so that's good.
Food does that.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, where can people find you? Again, I know we mentioned Cottage Hill McFarland at the cottage.
Yes.
But what about, are there other places around town that they could find honey butter?
Well, one of our other partners is Yellowhammer, which I think you've had.
Yeah, Jeff, first
on here.
episode of the podcast.
Yes.
Yep.
So any one of his stores carries our butter that you can purchase with a bagel,
Okay.
which is really cool. A lot of people have found out about us from Yellowhammer because of all their following. We are in Sims at Maggie B's, which is a boutique up in Sims on Snow. So we're there. We're about to be in Jackson, Alabama at a place called A Gathering Place. She's a caterer and she's opening her own store. But we've scaled back on a lot of the wholesale and are really working on building our own business and brand and at Reney's.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's good. All right, so again, like I said, you do a great job. You do a great job on social media as well, and all your ideas are awesome. I did want to transition to our next segment of the show, and it's
Okay.
called Meat and Three. So we've already gotten into the meat of the podcast and the show, and so I've got 3 burning questions for you.
All
And
right.
and the first one is, what is one dish that everyone should eat in Mobile right now?
What is one dish? So food-wise, I mean, Panini Pizza is no longer there, but Squid Ink is in its spot in downtown Mobile, and I love their burgers.
Yep,
So they have a
they're
really
some of the best burgers for sure
yes,
in town.
they do.
And Panini Pizza's coming back to downtown Mobile.
And
In the old Moon Pie store, they'll be
Okay.
coming back.
awesome.
So that will be returning.
Yep. And then Meatballs. I love them.
Yep.
Anything that you can get from there is delicious. So those would be the top 2 that are on my head right
Okay.
this minute.
Barbecue at Meatballs for sure.
Yes.
I don't think we've talked about meatballs on the podcast, so that's good. That's a good one.
Yeah. Add them to your list
Yes.
for sure.
Yes. All right, my second question is, what is one restaurant outside of Mobile? So I know you grew up outside of Mobile. What's
did.
one restaurant outside of Mobile, but within driving distance, that everybody should go to?
Okay, so I love country cooking. I'm going to give you 2 places, actually.
All right, let's do it.
There's one in Pascagoula that I grew up eating at called the Heritage House.
Okay.
So, country cooking at its finest. They have different things every day on the buffet, but fried chicken and mac and cheese. That's called the Heritage House. You definitely want to add that to your list. And then in Hurley, there's a place called Sassy's. So I love driving over there, and they have some loaded fries, and they have this Oreo Delight dessert.
Okay.
It's just heaven.
I like it. All right.
So-
South Mississippi.
Yes,
Yep.
shout out.
All right. That kind of leads into my third question is, do you have a favorite food city outside of Mobile that you like to go to?
A favorite food city? Well, the first thing that came to my head right now was Washington, D.C., and all the different food we ate up there. There was this place called the Founding Fathers.
Yeah, I've eaten there.
Have you? It's
Yep.
so good.
Yep, I sure have. Yep.
Yes. I mean,
that place was good.
Yes, I loved everything that we got, and we all tried each other's food, and I think about it still. Like, I want to go back and eat there.
Yeah, and I love that name too.
I know. It was really like farm to table, organic food.
That's right.
Yes. So that's what came to my head right then.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, last segment of the show is called Chris's Dishes, and this is where I talk about the best dish that I've had this week, and I'll turn it over to you, and you talk about the best dish you've had.
Okay.
All right, so the best dish that I had was from Regina's Kitchen, and I had the shoal sandwich, and it was a smoked turkey sandwich. It had bacon, it had jalapeno cheddar, and it was on a sourdough bread, and it came with chips, it came with Zapp's chips, I like that, but I also added a cup. They had a cup of chicken noodle soup. That was their special for the day. So I got the chicken noodle soup also. And I just happened to come upon Regina's Kitchen. Now, I'd heard about them a long time ago, being around Midtown. And so when I saw it pop up, I was like, I didn't think they were still around. And we'll come to find out, they're down there by Brookley Field. So they're right off Interstate 10, down there like where Airbus is and the new airport is going to be right there in that area. That's where they are, and so it's a small. It's almost in like a little warehouse area. You probably drive by it if they didn't have a sign and not have any idea that it was a restaurant. But it's a really cool. So it's a small place. It's a little diner. The red checkerboard tablecloths. So it's very small. Now all the Airbus people have found out about it for sure, and so you definitely you want to call ahead and order, or be prepared you're going to wait a few minutes, especially if you go right at 12 o'clock. Like I said, the Airbus people have found out about it. It's not a secret to them, but I put it on Facebook, and I think it's a hidden gem in Mobile, Regina's Kitchen.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the best thing that I've had this week.
Awesome.
How about you? What's the best thing you've had lately?
Well, West Mobilians like to stay out in West Mobile, and I love the Mediterranean Grill. There's several of them, but they have this orzo. It's like carbonara.
Yes.
Some type
the
of
bacon. The
yes.
bacon one. The bacon.
Oh, it's so good.
Yes.
I could eat that.
That's so good.
And their baklava is really good, but you have to get there early for that, or else it's sold out for the day.
Yep.
And their hummus. So that's what I love to eat there. I usually will go and get the hummus, the orzo, and the baklava.
All right. I know they have the location on Airport.
So this one is on Schillinger and Cottage Hill.
Okay, Schillinger and Cottage. Okay, yes. Okay, so
Yeah.
Schillinger and Cottage Hill, Airport, and 65. There's a location.
Okay.
Also downtown. I know they got one in Daphne, and I think one coming soon in Fairhope as well. I just
Okay.
saw they put up a sign,
Yeah.
and in one of the shopping centers, I think for the new Publix or something like that. Something that's
Okay.
going on over there in Fairhope. So
Yeah.
well,
Well,
yeah,
you can
Mediterranean.
order online.
Yep.
So easy to just order and then go walk in and pick it up.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's all I've got, Meredith.
Well, yay!
Thank you so much.
For having me. I'm just so excited.
Yeah.
I love you and your wife and Bienville Bites, and I feel honored that you would ask me to do this.
Absolutely. We talked about you, I think it was like the third episode when we had Jacqueline on with
Okay.
Mobay, and your name came up then. And so, yeah, I've been wanting to get you on here for sure for a while. And
Awesome.
especially to represent our West Mobile audience as
Yes,
well.
Wemo.
Yeah, for sure. We got to get more people on the podcast from West Mobile.
Definitely.
Because y'all are doing awesome out there.
Well, thank you.
So everybody go out to the cottage out there, McFarland and Cottage Hill,
Yep.
and go see Meredith and her
Yes.
awesome employees that she has out there. And I will definitely be sharing my thoughts on the biscuits. I'm so excited about this.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
All right. Thank y'all for listening to the Port City Plate podcast. You can find us on iTunes and Spotify and everywhere you listen to podcasts. And of course, I'll be sharing everything on the Port City Plate Facebook group. And so we've got some really awesome episodes coming up as well in the future. And so we will catch y'all in the next episode.